Chicago because of our efforts to right the wrongs of the past, particularly as it relates to descendants of slaves. So, look, they can't have it both ways, right? They can't, accuse the city of Chicago of focusing solely on black folks while at the same time trying to make a claim that somehow we're doing the opposite of that.
So in a nutshell, is that
Thanks.
the answer to
Thank you, Mark. We're going to go to Mariah now. Thanks.
yes or no? Is that the answer to the
Hi, Mayor.
Hi.
Do you have concern on the curfew ordinance? Do you have concerns about the provision that allows Snelling to essentially predict, with evidence though, that disorderly conduct is going to occur, and then apprehend teens based off that when they haven't been arrested for a crime?
Well, that's not what the ordinance states. In fact, if there's evidence that, through social media, and this is how these gatherings tend to take place, that the gathering in and of itself is designed and purposed to invoke violence, what the ordinance would allow for is the codification of a policy that calls for the individuals to disperse. And then there's a time frame in which that dispersal order is allowed to materialize. In the event that individuals refuse to disperse, as the policy is in place now, the police department would have essentially the same authority that they've always had, which is to detain individuals, right? But again, the ultimate goal is to strengthen our ability to protect the people of this city without violating anyone's constitutional right.
And so do
To
you
the left, to
support
the
the
left.
ordinance as it stands currently, or do you think that some things need to change before you're willing to
Well,
sign?
clearly, the city council wanted to have more discussion. I think it's always good when we have more discussion.
Hi, Mayor. How are
Hi,
you?
good, very well, thank you.
Thank
It's
you.
been a while, it's good
I
to see
know.
you again.
Thank you. I wanted to piggyback on the curfew thing again, but more so from the perspective of young people. I can't help but think about the dozens of them that came out in the spring to, speak out against the curfew. And I understand there's been provisions made essentially or revisions made to it. But I guess how would you explain this newest iteration to them, and also address concerns they may have about the news that's going to be coming out of City Hall today?
Well, conversations are still ongoing, and I just want to make something absolutely clear. What we opposed, rightfully so, was a snap curfew. This is not a snap curfew. It's not. We already have a curfew in place. It's 10 p.m. during the week, and we saw an effective use of communication during the New Year's Eve celebration. The policy that the police department adheres to now is that they have the authority to call for individuals who are gathering that could potentially be harmful to disperse. What this does is it codifies that policy, but it also provides pre-warning, right? Because look, it's about keeping people safe, but this notion that you can just snap your finger and enact a curfew, of course, I oppose that, and I continue to oppose that. This measure, of course, is providing a lot more consideration around the protection of our young people, both their constitutional rights, but their safety as well.
Hi, Mayor.
Hi.
I just want to clarify, you're not pledging to veto the intoxicating hemp ban, but you haven't ruled it out. Is that correct?
Yeah, look, as I said, there are some real serious concerns about this ordinance. I'm not the only one that has these concerns, and I have not made a decision yet. But I think it's important that when we enact policy, that we do it right, that we do it well. There were a number of city council members that admitted that not only did they have concerns going into this structure, but that they recognized that the concerns that other alders had, that there was a willingness or some level of desire to continue to cooperate to make the document better.
And on a completely different topic, the Chicago Board of Ethics has been without a chair for more than 6 months. It has had to cancel 2 meetings since then because of a lack of quorum. Why haven't you named a new chair to the Ethics Board? And does that signal that ethics are not a priority for you going into the last year or so of your term?
No, it doesn't signal that. Ethics are important. My chief of staff, Ms. Pasión Zayas, is here. I don't know if you want to speak more to that, but we have an entire process that we go through to vet individuals. It's about getting the right people in place, but absolutely ethics are important to us. You want to talk a little bit more about it? Thank you, Tina.
Christina Pasión-Zayas, Chief of Staff. So just to put things into context, the Ethics Board has 7 members. There's 1 vacancy and there's 1 expired term. I've actually been in quite a bit of communication with the Better Government Association because they've been watching this very closely. For us, there are over 100 boards and commissions. We have to, as the mayor said, go through an extensive vetting process, right? We need to ensure that individuals are residents of Chicago. They are not indebted to Chicago, that they do have the requisite experience or expertise to be able to serve in this capacity, and that they're willing and available to serve. Triangulating all of those pieces sometimes take a little bit longer. We do have some folks in the pipeline, and we're working to get that together. Now, what you have noticed is that there hasn't been quorum because we do have that rule where you have to have a certain amount of individuals in person in order to allow the online participation. And we've had, due to the flu season, a couple people at the last minute not able to join, and that's why we haven't had quorum. But we are still prioritizing this board along with all of our boards and commissions to make sure that we have them fully seated. Thank you.
Thank you, Tina.
Mayor, nice to see you.
It is. Nice to see you as well.
Absolutely.
It's always nice to see me, isn't it?
Yeah, me too, I would say.
Yeah.
So what's kind of your message to, hemp businesses who may be confused today about whether they need to start pulling these products off their shelves? Is there a fight over? When could they expect a decision? And if this ban does pass, what will be done for those businesses that are at risk of closing?
Well, as I understand it, that the ordinance that was passed today, I believe the inaction date was for April 1. So that's the absolute deadline. In the meantime, of course, again, there are concerns that have been raised, and I think it's paramount for the good of our city to regulate, have the ability to actually test, to actually regulate what was passed, and to keep people safe, but ultimately to make sure that we're not driving small businesses out of it. Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Hey, Mayor.
Hey, where
and
you going today?
Job interview. No,
Okay, so this is-
it's a joke. No, I'm joking. In other potentially unfinished legislative battles on video gambling terminals, your administration has suggested that it wants some changes before legalization moves forward, before licensing moves forward. What needs to change for you to move ahead with that licensing?
Yeah. I mean, there are a number of things, as you all know, and I'm not, trying to obfuscate here. I don't like to negotiate, details in public. I'm not the only one that has, raised concerns. I mean, I think one of the things, of course, that we've talked about repeatedly is just the capacity to be able to build and operate. That these, as I understand it, I mean, look, I'm not a gambler, but understand that these machines are sizable. The infrastructure to be able to hold them up, the ability to do it at the pace and rate that, folks have suggested. So I mean, I think those are just, a few concerns that I do have. And again, I believe that there are some industry demands and elements that are centered around gambling and who gets the benefit from the gambling industry, to make sure that, we're not unnecessarily harming, those who are also, a part of the infrastructure of gaming. So again, those are just to name a few. But in the meantime, I wish you well in your job interview. Thank you all very much.